Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. 3, 2, 1. Jouxy, welcome. Can you just pronounce your name for me? Because the way you said it off air was just sensual.
My actual IRL name?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my real name is Jordan Rory de Jou.
Oh,
yeah.
It's like music to my ears, mate. How are you, by the way?
I'm good. I'm really good.
That's good.
Bit tired, but yeah.
Well, tired from what, scrimming?
No, just tired. Back at work as of this week, and just getting into the gist of things.
It's probably a blessing though to be working during these times because you're up in Queensland though, aren't you? So
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's a bit better up there than it is in Melbourne.
That's right. Yeah, with COVID and whatnot.
Yeah, Melbourne's just the cesspool right now, full of the virus and everything. But the amount of people who have, lost jobs or not been able to work because of it, that's been the tough part, hasn't it? So I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad that you're working and you're busy and your team's doing good too.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, we're doing pretty well at the moment. We have taken a little bit of a break since PCS1, but I think we're just about to get back into things with qualifications for PCS2 coming up shortly.
I'd say that's probably the smart way of doing it because, otherwise you're just gonna get burnt out nonstop, and you guys probably are out of the majority in the region. Probably don't need to scrim every single night. You've been there, done it for a while. I'd imagine you're fine to take breaks here and there.
Yeah, I think it's pretty important to take breaks after those sort of events, especially when there's so much pressure like going into that last day. Like it's pretty mentally draining. The whole emotions and whatnot that's going forward and back, and after that event, obviously it's not one to be extremely upset about because we were pretty happy with how we played those last 2 days, but we were really, really upset that we didn't get at least top 3, and we know we should have probably came second if we hadn't have made that many mistakes as what we did, like just fundamental mistakes on the last day.
We'll get all into that business later on. Let's kick things off though with your career beginnings. I actually don't know too much about your career beginnings. When I first came on the scene, you were part of Tainted Minds. Was that where you began? Was that the first team you played on?
That's probably would have been maybe where I started getting a bit more known. But where I actually started off, I was having a brief think about this, earlier on, just before the podcast, and I can't remember exactly how I got in contact with them, but there used to be Athletico's GM Shots. He used to be with on their staff, and anyway, I was in contact with him. I can't remember. I don't know how we got into contact, but we played a series of like Deadman mode, like of RuneScape of 07. And at this point, I was like playing a lot of PUBG, IRL with friends, and I was putting in like a lot of hours and grinding pretty hard. And anyway, I was talking to him. I think there was a couple of other people within the scene, like I think Joey Semtex AU, Carnage's CEO. So he was playing there as well. Anyway, Shots pretty much said, "Look, we're our academy team for our PUBG roster." He's doing like a trial, like we're putting together a team. Would you be interested? And I said, yeah, maybe, probably would, because I was like really, really into PUBG at that time. Before that, like I was really into League of Legends, and new to the esports scene, like as a spectator and whatnot. But I was still pretty interested in it. So the whole like competing and whatnot, and I've always been a competitive person, like I'm doing sports from growing up. So I messaged Shots and I said, yeah, I'm interested. And he said, well, look, we've already actually put together a team, but join the Discord and whatnot, and see how things go. And that team consisted of Flood, who's still playing, obviously, Bishop, Externals, and Tolkien Carnage, who was a good friend of Nephahor, which most people might know. And anyway, so that was their academy roster, and I played a few like casual games with like the normal roster, like the main roster of like back then it was Pongo, Heifer, Nephahor, and Uncry, and I played a few games with Pongo and Neph, and I popped off, and like I was just playing like my standard casual play, and I was like, wow, you're insane, like you're really, really good, like fuck playing for the academy team, come play for our like our main team, like be our sub or something. And I was like taken back. I was like, nah, that's way too full on, too serious for me. I'm just gonna like I couldn't commit to like something like that. I was like, it was a bit scary, a bit daunting, because I was like, oh shit, that's so serious. Like, you know, in the back of your head, if you're good enough or whatnot. So I was like, no, I'll just play for the academy team, and yeah, so that's pretty much where things started off. On the
It's interesting
Athletico
you
Academy.
say that because it brings back memories. Like I remember that academy team. Now that you've mentioned it, it's not something that's sort of in the forefront of my mind. But like I used to play casual games with Neverhor and Token Carnage a lot before he was even part of the academy team and before Neff was even on Athletico. So that brings back a lot of memories. That's a bit of a stacked team there with Flood on that team as well.
Yeah,
Bloody hell.
we're pretty shit back then though, to be honest. So pretty different to how we are now. So, but yeah,
Well-
no, it's pretty funny to see how things have turned out.
And as you said, sort of first foray into competitive. I don't know why. I thought you had a CS background, so that's not the case.
No, first
No.
FPS game ever. So yeah.
Mm. And then obviously you just lacked that self confidence to believe in yourself in playing on a top team.
Like I had no information about the scene. Like I had like no idea whatsoever. It was just like kind of like shots. It's like, hey, look, do you want to come have a spin? And I was like, yeah, I'm keen as like get my name out there and whatnot. And like I was pretty late to when PUBG actually, like obviously like the scene had been around for a bit. And I was pretty late to it, but I think I had put in like a lot of hours like when I started playing as well. So like I caught up kind of in regards to that. And at the time I was just like, wow, these people who are considered the best aren't really that good. And
Who
but
are those
yeah, it was
people?
at the time. I can't remember exactly, but like I was just outperforming people. Like just I don't know. It was so long ago. This is years and years ago. But yeah, you just had those like those teams in like the highest CG division, like maybe like Arcane, and like they had a few people that weren't too flash, or like that's the only team I can like remember. I don't want to say Chiefs because they still play. And they were actually really, really good back then. I remember killing Critical Motion and Potato first time in MM, and I was like fanboying so hard. But this is like 2 or 3 years ago. But I like just like the standard. Like I was like, wow, I can actually compete with these guys. And like I've never played competitive before, as well.
But this was before really, I guess, everything became set in stone. I know you said you came into the scene late, but it was pretty volatile early on. And it really wasn't kind of set. It really wasn't set until you probably were well and truly in the scene anyway. So
Yeah.
I kind of understand with what you're touching on here in terms of those sort of teams. This is like the old Shaq days, really. So leaving the academy, I actually don't recall how that all sort of broke up, or what did you just get an offer from another team? In this case, Tainted Minds.
Okay, so what happened? So we were like, I was a sub for the academy roster. They had a bit of underperforming. Bishop was sort of the person that would just hard tunnel on scenarios and get picked off for it. So he was out, I was in. I'm in the core roster. We had the LPL relegations to get into Challenger. That was when the what was that team? Like it had Beagle and whatnot.
Oof.
We played against those guys. I can't remember Domina when they were playing around and they were dominating everyone. But so we had that Athletico Academy roster, and pretty much if we wanted to compete in Tier 1 leagues, we couldn't be representing Athletico because obviously they had the main roster. So we looked elsewhere. We got picked up by a small org called Extricity. There was nothing in the contract that benefited us really, but we just wanted to be picked up by an org just because that's what it's like when you're getting into the esports scene. And then quickly after that, my partner became pregnant, so I thought that my game time would have dropped quite a bit significantly, and also I think a couple of the boys got offers from different teams. Exonos got an offer to join Immunity, and eventually Extricity disbanded. I was still really on good terms with the main Athletico roster, so pretty much where it went from there was I think Flood went to join Sif. I was kind of like up in the air what was going to happen with me with PUBG. They asked me to play Zemo with them. I said no. Go play. You guys should play with Zardon. He's playing really, really well. Joe. At that point in time, and he went on to go play with them in the Zemo, and they got first place. And I kind of was kicking myself after that, but I wouldn't have been able to attend anyway. And
was
then
that the only reason why you turned it down? Because you couldn't attend?
Because my partner was.
No. I'm saying, is that the only reason? Like, let's say there was a case in the world you could have attended. would have you then said, sure?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
was really on good terms. So this is at this stage, it was Linksy, Heifer, and Neff, and they didn't have a fourth. So, and I was like, I love those guys. Like, they're kind of like what brought me up in with PUBG in the first place. And they heavily influenced me. And it was kind of like, you know, when they went away to that first StarSeries, the very, very first event, the first like international event an OC team went to, I was like, oh fuck, that's my dream, like to do what they did. So like they were kind of like an inspiration at the start and like heavily influenced me. And then I was at that sort of skill level where they kind of wanted me to join their team. After Zemo, after they had won, and they said, look, we would really like to have you at that stage, because they also won. They tried to fill that fourth position with like the best players within the region. So I know they approached Extreme 2G and they approached Kasun, and both of those guys said no. And like, you know, they were always like, oh, we'd love to have you on that roster if you're able to, but I couldn't commit to the schedule that they had. So I kind of filled in as a sub, and I played with them for a few weeks. You know, learn a lot. You know, it also helped get my name out there because I was playing tier 1 leagues with them. We popped off one night in GLL. I think it was GLL or it was some league. And we won 3 games in a row, and like I played like a real solid supportive role. It was just like kind of feeding there for information. And then Linksy and Hef just kind of fragged out, and it just flowed. It was beautiful, and like, and then but like. The reality was like I couldn't commit to their time schedule, so I would never be able to contract it to that team. And I helped him pick up. I think Matt McClutch became a free agent at that time, and I was like, "Hey, look, this guy's nuts. Like, you guys should give this guy a trial." And then all of a sudden, McClutch was on their roster, and I was just like still throwing up in the air what I was going to do. And then I think that was when the Berlin quals for the first PGC event happened, that Chiefs one, and Benchu was in my DMs, pretty much saying, "Hey, look, Tainted Minds has gone to shit. Looking at forming a new roster."
This was after the PGI quals.
This was during the PGI quals.
Oh, during
the quals, because I didn't compete because I didn't have a
during
team.
the LAN, like.
Yep, during the LAN.
Wow.
Yep. Because I don't have a team. I didn't compete. If I was going to compete with anyone, it would have been like Athletico, but you know, McClutch was on that roster at that stage, and he was set in stone, and it was really, really working out well for them because he was a really, really good player. And I think I still like maybe put an interest that I still wanted to continue playing, and I think McClutch put in a good word with me with Benchu, and he's like, he approached me, put in the DMs, and then all of a sudden I was like, God, Tainted Minds, you know, a tier 1 Oceanic org, like this is awesome, like, and like their sort of schedule was like a lot less than what Athletico's like proposed one was, so. Yeah.
And then so
I
was that?
Tainted Minds.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was that like immediately after the LAN? You were just straight into the roster, which
straight away.
You, Subslayer, Benchu,
and Tuok.
Yep. Okay, because Tuok joined after leaving Greyhound.
Yeah, right after the PGI LAN event. I don't know if they had a fallout or if he was. I can't remember exactly if he was removed from the roster by Zoid or what the fine details were, but I just it was me, Subby, Bench, because I don't even think Bench played the PGI quals. I think it was like a Tedesco, Galway, and whatnot.
But yeah, Bench wasn't there for the actual calls. And then so after that, you guys are you're on Tainted Minds for a little bit of time, and then you get invited, if I recall, to StarSeries. Yeah. Do you know how that came about, the actual invite? Because I remember at the time everyone was sort of like, "Oh, Athletico's going to get it again." Yeah. And then Tainted Minds ended up getting it.
Yeah, it's a bit interesting. Like, so from what I can remember, we're on that roster for a little bit. I think we had like an LPL season. We came 4th or something. We actually showed that we're a pretty strong team. And then we like fell out and like didn't even qualify for like Challenger or something because of the whole roster swap. We lost all our points, so we had to do relegations. And then I think like just after that, right after we didn't even get into the Challenger League for CG, Josh, I believe it was Josh, I think his partners or like marketing or something for Tainted Minds, in a group chat, he added us all, and pretty much he had gotten a message saying that Starlighter were inviting us to their league. And I think the whole story behind it was like Subby was like very social at like, because they went to like an event as well, where they got like 15th or something. I can't remember what it's called. It wasn't StarSeries. There was another event after StarSeries. They went to that one, and apparently Subby had made a good impression, or someone was very social with some people. Some guy who owned like OGN or something. And then apparently that's how the story goes about how we got the invite. But obviously there was like a lot of controversy around us getting the invite, as like there was back then when everything was invite and whatnot. And no one was happy with it and how it was. But it was an awesome opportunity for me. I was very excited, as was the whole team.
Now, was 2X still part of the roster but couldn't travel because he wasn't part of the team that went?
Yeah.
Was that
so
simple? Was that?
So yeah, we got the invite. Everyone was really, really happy. And then it was kind of up in the air whether or not I could go, because at that time my partner, we'd already had our little son. So it's a bit full on to be able to go overseas across the world for a whole week whilst you have I think you would have been a few months old. So to leave that with your partner, that's pretty full on. I probably still regret it. I don't think it's a very good thing that I did, but I was like, it was like a dream for me to go and do this. So eventually we came to terms and I was able to go. But for Tom, it was more so a financial thing. I think if he had left the country, there was some sort of financial thing that was like kind of restraining him from going. So he made the decision to give his spot up, and then doing so, Benchu approached me and he was like, "Look, we need a fourth to fill for Tommy. Who do you have in mind?" And straight away I was like, "Well, I know we get really, like, both of us get along with Heifer really, really well. So he was my pick." I was like, Heifer. But Bench was like, "All right, well, so I've got either Heifer in mind or I've got Extreme 2G." And I was just like, "Yeah, Russell's like nuts. Like, he's insane." I had nothing to do with Russell at that stage, knew nothing about him. But I just knew that he was insane. Like, he like triple headshot me with an M16, like was like in the time span of like 1 second one time. I was like, holy shit.
So you had never even interacted with Russell up until that point?
I didn't interact. Yeah, no.
Just maybe a few words here or there.
I'd watched some streams of like tier 1 leagues, and I knew that he was like considered like an insane fragger, and like a very, very nuts player. But I'd never interacted, never spoke to him at all in my whole entire life prior to that point. So yeah, it was gonna be me, Extreme, Subby, and Benchu at that stage to go compete at the StarSeries.
How was it? Just, I guess, I mean, I know results wise it was not the best, and it was sort of a put together sort of team, I guess, with Extreme coming in. But did you at least enjoy the experience and playing at that sort of level for yourself?
I think anyone growing up around esports, or anyone like that gets introduced to it, like that whole sort of environment where you get to compete against people who are representing these tier 1 brands, or represent like playing at an international major event. Well, I wasn't a major event, might have been a minor event, but an international event itself, and traveling across the world to play video games and try and make some winnings out of it, and all those people that were competing at that event when PUBG was kind of like still popping off at that stage a little bit. On Twitch, a lot of those guys are streaming, and you watch them a lot and watch them compete at these events, and you're like, wow, I want to be doing what these guys do. Like, I want to play this game full time. I want to be representing a Team 1 brand, and then to rock up at the event and see all these guys, like, playing for an organization like Optic, who are like, well renowned and stuff like that. It's just, it was really surreal, and it was awesome. And meeting some of those people as well and getting to hear their story and talk to them, that was also really, really cool. Like, got to speak to Hypothetical and Valorant and a couple of the Ghost guys, I think, were the only really people that I socialized with, just really the North American people. So it was really, really cool.
I'm assuming you still at least socialized with the boys while you were there, and everything was all pretty happy, right? There wasn't too many sad faces, even with the event really not going all that great.
Well, during the event, like, obviously, like, prior to the event, we're all really excited, like, meet each other for the first time. Benchu is like the sort of guy that I really enjoy hanging out with. Like, Scotch on the rocks. Love sport. Good food. That sort of guy. He's a lot of fun. And he's really, really social. So, we're all in like really, really high, like, had high hopes and whatnot, like, during the event. Yeah, I think Benchi was actually having some medical issues as well. Like he was struggling really because he was our IGL and he was struggling really to focus because he was having some medical issues. So it kind of like definitely hindered us a little bit as well because we're all just stuck there not knowing what to do. It was a real eye opener in regards to the difference in skill level at that stage, and like we just had really no idea. And it kind of did suck, you know, not qualifying for the top 16. I think the most heartbroken was definitely Russell. I was definitely heartbroken as well, but like with how poorly we played. But yeah,
You also would have been happy to come home as well,
yeah,
probably too.
yeah,
So
I
that
was. Yeah.
really would have been, I guess, in a way, kind of a win-win anyway. You either stay, make some money, and if not, then you come home. So you guys end up coming home early on. How soon after did you leave the team to join Order?
Okay, so I think
A little bit of time.
okay, I do remember. So prior to actually us going overseas to the event, I think things might have been a little bit like a little bit rough. Like we are playing, you know, just like just online leagues within OC, and I think there was a little bit of tension in the air. I think like Tom wasn't really performing, and I think he thought that he was getting drops. Like I think him and Benchy were kind of like had some, you know, like not like heated discussions, but like, you know, like kind of like raised voices, like, you know, like a little bit of you know, arguments here and there. But like it wasn't like a, you know, a really good team environment, like not with like, you know, the one goal to like be the best one. It was just like a couple of guys just playing the game and having some fun. And then I played a scrim block. I'm pretty sure Cal mentioned this. Played one scrim night. I'd never played with these guys before in my whole entire life as well, but it was the night before I went away for a LAN, so I wanted to play some scrims, and I think they were looking for one to fill. I played with Cow, Ronan, and Insight. I'm pretty sure, yeah. And it was like the most insane scrim block ever. Like we played so well. Like it was just like it was 4 people all like, you know, communicating really well. Like it just worked. It was insane. And we popped off. It was only oceanic scrims, but they were taken pretty seriously back then, and we destroyed the server. And I think I played really well. Like I popped off, and like they were really impressed, and I was really impressed with how well it felt. And then I think whilst I was at the event and we were like doing pretty poorly, I think I was in Insight's DM saying, "Oh shit, like this is like I just like I want to have an environment where like I was pretty much hinting at wanting to join their team, and they're like, look, we want you on the roster. So as soon as you come back, we'll try to organize something." And then Order ended up buying out my contract from Tainted Minds for an amount, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, and I was on the roster that I'm on now with the boys.
I know it's been a long time. I know there's the little disband time in between, but it's been a long journey with those guys. So yeah, recalling the events from when obviously Cow was on the podcast as well, he basically detailed it as you did, just that one scrim block, and it was just like you know, heaven at that point. You guys as a team realized pretty quickly, and then success followed. Of course, this is now going into 2019, which was arguably the best year for PUBG so far. Phase 1, you guys completely had a 1v1 battle with Athletico, but for the most part, like it was, I can sit back and say you guys dominated, because really both you and Athletico dominated. It was just both at the top. By this point though, for yourself, how were you traveling along now with the family and everything going into 2019? Were the thoughts of like, can I continue to do this? Like, or was it full go, steam ahead, we're going for this? Especially the Faceit announced and the prize money, guaranteed prize money too, I think, for reaching Faceit.
So pretty much, like, it was a bit of a struggle for that first event. When I traveled to Ukraine, it was a bit of an argument between me and my partner in regards to me being able to compete, because it wasn't really fair on her, like, and that was the bottom line. But it was just something that I really wanted to do. And I think, you know, through this whole journey, like whilst I was at the event, but through this whole journey, like her family has been so incredibly supportive of what I do. Like, you know, if I had a daughter and like she was like you know, with someone who was you know, said that they play, you know, video games like as a hobby or whatnot, like, you know, a lot of people wouldn't get like the same response that I do from her family. Like they're so supportive. They think it's like the coolest thing, and I'm just like, Usually, whenever someone brings it up, I get really embarrassed and can't really talk about it. But
Yeah, that's what
they're
do
so
you do for your
supportive.
job?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. Like,
yeah.
what do you do when you're free time? And I said, I play video games and try and make. Yeah, but
No, imagine
that,
me for a second here, Jordan, right? Going to the ESL studio every week, getting
yeah,
in the Uber, and they're like, "Oh, what do you do for a job?" I'm like, "Oh, well, commentate video games."
that's awesome. I
But
don't
it's
know. That's
like
yeah,
the full conversation behind it is similar to that if you were to say I play video games for a living. Like,
yeah, yeah.
you got to explain everything, the world of Twitch, the internet, etc.,
Mm.
etc. But yeah, continue on.
Well, so like so pretty much, so we had that like initial argument about that first event, but ever since I think when she saw like how professional the event was and like how like StarSeries had done the event and like just how professional the event was, pretty much she kind of was more on the supportive side of it. She was just like, well, if this is really what you want to do, and I kind of understand like a little bit more about this now. Like I'm a bit more on the supporting side. And then I think we went away to Thailand for Omen by HP, and we won the minor event, and we pocketed like 30,000 AUD as well. So that was kind of that also helped like swing the deal as
Mm,
well. Yeah,
yeah, that helps when you actually can start bringing in the money,
yeah, a little bit of
not
money
just
like on the side. Yeah,
not just the potential as well, but then it's like, hey, it can start to trickle in. The downside, though, is of course you do have to spend, sort of time away and have
yeah,
to go to these events, especially traveling to Europe. You'd already done that with Ukraine. Now you've qualified for Faceit. Yay, that's a blessing. But now you've got to go all the way to London. Was it different this time around? Like, it was more supportive?
like it was supportive. I think this was like because we knew that this was the biggest event we'd been to. She actually
Well, it was
had
the
spent a
biggest
few,
PUBG event besides PGI, but PGI was a
yeah,
mess. This was the biggest proper
yeah,
competitive FPP. Yeah.
and it was awesome. Like in regards to like support wise, like she was happy, like she was happy for me. It was more so me struggling to get time to get off work, which eventually um I had to tell my boss pretty much, well, both my bosses, like what I do as well as a hobby, and they're like one of them's like really really supportive. I think it's really really cool, and the other one's like more so obviously like with statistics and time away from work and whatnot, and the money that's invested in me like as a staff member and whatnot. But Face it was awesome. The first I think the first major event we'd been to as a team, and it was awesome. Like I hate traveling, but like that Europe travel, it's like 30 plus hours. It's
Yeah.
disgusting. So
I've never traveled to Europe yet, so I
it's
unfortunately
gross.
haven't experienced it.
It's terrible, and I'm not a good traveler as well. I can't sleep on planes, so like I'm
Well,
like
so
there awake for like 30
you've
hours.
you've done a bit of traveling now. The longest I've done America a couple of times now. But
Yeah.
would it be like flying from East Coast Australia to like LA and then getting on another plane and flying back?
Well, for me, it was catch a bus 2 hours to the airport because I live in the sticks, and then catch a plane all the way down to like Sydney, which was like an hour and a half, and catch that plane like towards where's the stop off? I think it's
Dubai?
Dubai. Yeah, it's Dubai. Yeah, it's Dubai, and then all the way over through to London. So yeah, it's disgusting, but I'd say it's like so. What is it? It's like going to America and back.
Yeah.
Like it'd be more, yeah. So yeah, it's not fun, but and
Crazy.
especially when you go away to those events and you're not getting paid as well. Like I'm taking time off work,
Mm.
so I'm not getting paid. You're kind of risking it, and like the boys see like because we weren't assigned team, or like we weren't like obviously we had a boot camp funded for us, which was awesome by the community, but yeah, when you're not getting paid and like it's so mentally draining. Like I think Kat touched on it as well. Like I think we'd leave the hotel like 9 o'clock in the morning, and we'd get back like 6 or 7 o'clock at night. It's essentially like a full-time job. Like, and then you're just like constantly like playing video games, and like it's all stressful, like because you're playing scrims against the best teams and you want to perform. It's really mentally draining, and when you do that for a whole week and you have the potential to not walk away with any money.
Mm.
It's really cool to go to an event and like compete and whatnot, but like when you get used to that, and like the bottom line is like you want to compete for some money.
Yeah.
It can get really really stressful. So
And it's
I
not a
think
holiday. I had this discussion with Cal as well. It's not a holiday, even more so for yourself, where you can't just be spending the money.
yeah
Maybe some of the younger guys who've got a bit of loose change can maybe see some sights and whatnot. But for yourself, it's very much fly there, work, fly back.
Yeah, that's right. For me personally, like even with the Omen by HP trip when we won, like I was like straight back on the plane as soon as the event was over. Like had then obviously the big night after we'd won, which was really really good with the boys. But like the next day, I'm back on the flight home. I got to I'm probably working the day after, so like that's how I try and like deal with my work to say like it's only going to be these amount of days off. I'm not planning to stay any like longer than that. But like Cow and Insight and whatnot, they actually like it's really really good. They have a holiday after the event and whatnot and go sightsee. But
I think that is good if you can, but not everyone can.
Yeah, like financially for me, it's not a thing.
Even for myself, like I just wanted to come like after PGC, I'd already been there for 3 weeks. But I think Korea would have been a better example because it was only a couple of days for Korea. But I would have loved to have stayed for like maybe a couple more days. But then I'm just by myself. If I was with the missus, sure, by all means.
Exactly.
I would have paid out of my pocket definitely to stay a little bit longer. But I know like Froz actually ended up staying an extra week in Korea. And I don't blame him. How often do you get to go to these sort of locations? So, but not everyone can do that, obviously. And I think you're a perfect example for that. Switching things over now, we'll just skip straight to the Grand Slam GLL, which was now the third big event that you've been to. So by this point, you've almost done them all, except for PGI, really.
Yeah, it's a big qualifiers for.
There was a tweet, I think, from Cal the other week where he was outlaying all of the things that you've now attended. It's ridiculous. I'm pretty certain PGI is the only big event that you haven't attended, and you've attended every other one. That's nuts. But Grand Slam was not a good time. It was probably, what would you say was the worst overseas international event you've been to?
Definitely the worst experience I've had as a team environment wise and like as performance wise. Obviously, it was very very like on the edge of, hey, I don't want to really, do I even want to like ever like do this ever again? Like it was, and I think it wasn't just me that shared that emotion. It was also maybe shared by and Cow, and I think up in the air, it's like for Insight, like he's just like potentially, I want to be on a different team as well. So
talk us through it, I guess, from start to finish. So there was, of course, another attempt, like Faceit, to have the boot camp. Well, firstly, there was an attempt to obviously find an organization who would pay for the boot camp. Discussed most of that in depth in Cow's podcast. So for those listening, if you want to go and listen to that, go to Cow's podcast. And then obviously that fell through. And I think there was another attempt though for crowdfunding, but it didn't work as well as Faceit.
I think the whole issue kind of with GLL actually comes back to Faceit. So if we go back to Faceit, so we got 10th overall out of 24 teams. That's actually not a bad showing. We were pretty content with how we performed. I think we should have got top 8. We threw a lot of games. We played really, really poorly at times, and it came down to experience, really. And we should probably be a bit more mature and look at it like that. But like I said, it was so mentally draining, and like when we had like that first day, we came out and like we had like fuck all. So we had not very many points at all, and like you're at the such a low point, and then the next 2 days we absolutely popped off on like top of the world. Like I played really really well that elimination day. That third day I played insane, like the best I've ever played in an event. And like we're on top of the world then, and then came to finals again. We were kind of like at a low point. We had a couple of good games here and there, but I think things are really really heated emotionally. There was a few points throughout the event where I know, like, and I hope he doesn't get upset for me for saying this, but I'm just going to say it how it really was. Throughout the event, where I think Insight's personality really, really got to me. When I say we, like the other 3 of us, we really, really trolled one game. We entered hard, and Insight was pretty much left in a scenario where he had to rank tank, and we were kind of relying on him to get some points. And like that's not a good situation to put on someone. And he probably
when you say troll, was this done on purpose? Like you literally did it on purpose?
So we panicked. No, we didn't do it on purpose. We panicked. Okay. We pretty much ended up in an engagement with Armory Gaming, which was like Han Boyer and Duckmans at the time. Like poor communication between me and Ronan. Ronan died because of it. Partially his fault, partially my fault. I got a kill. I got killed by like, the rest of the team. I don't know how Cow died, but pretty much Insight's in a solo sort of environment. A solo like he's like last obviously alive, and he's rank tanking, and he pretty much in one game he said, you know, like what's the point? Like he said he pretty much given up in that game, and obviously he didn't mean it, but he said it, and like I was kind of taken aback about he like like him by saying that. Like he obviously didn't mean it, and he regretted after he said it. Like because we've had this conversation before, but at the time, like I got really upset like at that, bit emotional, and I think there was other times during that event where I think Cow and Insight also had like a little bit of a heated discussion. Like we had this game where we boated towards Novo. I was driving, so obviously I don't know, like in those sort of pressure situations, like I'm like still on edge, like you know I'm listening to the comms and whatnot, and Cow called something, and then Insight called another, and we committed to what Cow said. Someone died for it, and then we're on foot, like we're in the edge of the zone, like it hard shifts off us. We're trying to like chase the blue. There's a vehicle drove past us. I said, "Don't shoot it; it'll give away our position." Cow shot at it. I got really shitty that he shot at it, because we all ended up dying. Like it was in the finals, and just fundamentals and like just stupid things, and we're just kind of getting at each other's throats, and that kind of just travels on to PCS. What do you call it? Phase 2? Yeah, like Phase 2 season, like even the Phase 2 season for the qualifiers for the league. Like I think at that stage, we all kind of like had these attitudes and these egos, and it's kind of what whenever we're performing poorly, it's really what lets us down, and whenever we're playing badly, it's that's solely the issue, because we work so well together, but like there's just times where like I strongly might disagree with what Cow thinks is the right thing to do, and because we've all like played professionally for so long, we probably all think that the way that the game should be played is the correct way, or how we think it should be played is the correct way, and there's times where Insight's call to play, and like I've like done my own solo thing, and like I might have had the right play, but like you've got to do it as a team. Like it's a team game. Like it's better off 4 people doing the wrong play than 1 person doing the right play. So I think whenever we're doing poorly, that's the reason. And during the whole the qualifiers for GLL, that's what we were like, especially me. Like I know I was definitely probably the main reason why we did so badly that qualifiers. Even though we got second, and like Athletico destroyed us. Like they were hands down the best team. But
to be fair, it was a very different Atletico to Phase 1 because they had
was.
Russell come back and help out. Luke had obviously grown some wings and become the man
Flood
he did.
as well.
And Flood, yeah. So, and look, it was probably at the time the best iteration of that team ever. So second was by no means horrible, but I do have to ask, like, hearing about this from yourself and everything as well that Cal spoke about in that podcast, was this all kept indoors, or was some of it leaking? Because I don't recall hearing too many issues coming out of the Incognito camp until after GLL had happened. So was this all kept?
It was a build up. It was just a build up. Like it was all a build up. Like obviously like after Faceit, like I probably still kept on to some emotions. Cow probably did. Rowan probably did. Insight actually, I think we had a conversation. It was like, look, we as a team, we were like, look, we need this to work. And Insight worked on his, and like if anyone, Insight was the best like attitude wise. Phase 2 hands down. He worked on it so much, and he was really good. It was just like the rest of us, probably not Ronan, but myself and Cow, and even then mainly me. Attitude was just like really poor, and there was just a build up of like, I don't know, something was going to snap, and the whole crowdfunding thing with Ezza, like how I was like against it from the beginning, and the other guys were all for it until the whole like the budget turned out to be like $6,000 or $7,000, which was just ridiculous. And that
how
kind
much
of
was
like
how much was crowdfunded for Faceit?
I think it was a few thousand. It was like the budget was nowhere near as high as it needed to be. I don't know the exact number. I know that everything was covered. And I think there was a little bit left over for like a food allowance. So
so basically JLL Grand Slam comes around, and as obviously wants to put together another crowdfund. It worked the first time, because it did work the first time, like
it
really
did, yeah.
Did she know that the budget was going to be so much higher this time around when she started the crowdfund?
I don't think she knew. Otherwise, I don't think she would have followed through
It's
with
like
it. I think
$6,000-7,000 is a lot to ask. Yeah.
yeah, it might have even been more than that, to be honest, as well. It might have been $8,000, and I just thought it was a bit ridiculous to ask people for money again.
And that's just
it's
because you wanted to have a boot camp.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it wasn't even a very good boot camp. Like we went overseas. Where we stayed was right, and like the facilities were fine, but I don't know, like just team environment wise, it wasn't very good, and like I was sick as a dog that whole week. Like I didn't even get to practice properly, and yeah, I felt terrible. And then come GLO, I was getting over my sickness, but like I think in the airport, Inside and Aaron had like a little of a debate, and I actually laughed at it. I thought it was hilarious, but I probably shouldn't have laughed. But like they were really on each other's nerves, and I think yeah, there was a few other things that Aaron had done that kind of annoyed the rest of the team, and team environment wise, like with the build up of everything, and then this as well. Like it was just kind of disaster waiting, and I think even before the event started or during the event, in the back of my head, I know personally like that I needed a break from that team.
But were there any attempts at any point to rectify these things or speak about them or try and resolve them, or was it very much issue happened, forget about it, move on, play game? Like, was it just all piled on until it eventually exploded, or were there attempts, I guess, to fix these small issues that then became big issues?
I don't think so. Like I don't think we're doing what we do now. Like I know, for example, like I'm admitting the fact that I have attitude issues in game. I didn't do that prior to that. Like I never admitted the fact that like I know that like Cow's playstyles at times really pissed me off back then. And you know these days like he's playing absolutely insane, and we never really have those issues anyway. But if we did, I'd probably I'd talk to him about it. I think we've had like one debate like since we've like reformed about like how I should have played something or how he should have played it, and it was like done in a mature way as well. So we're not having those like little sort of like issues that we were prior. Like I don't know. We've been together for so long,
increased and improved as well, I'd imagine.
but
Because that's
like
the
you
biggest
said,
thing about a team, though, is communication.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, we never really addressed those issues back then. And I think Erin also kind of sometimes made the situation a little bit worse than what it was. She's amazing, like such a good person, but I think she just has like a habit of making things I don't know, like pushing.
Does she try to do too much?
Um,
The type of person who just always has to be something done. Always has to be like a crowdfund. Always has to be like a boot camp. Always has to be the good intentions. I'm not saying they're bad intentions though.
I think a lot of it she did it for herself. Obviously she was like really good to us in those first few events, but I feel like, and I could be completely wrong with this, and I feel bad for stepping on her toes, but I feel like she was just trying to build Incognito as her own brand. I think we were offered a few opportunities to take up from other organizations that could have led to other opportunities, or she could have we could have like seeked out opportunities like this. This was just people who are contacting us, and she was always kind of undermining or just always wanting to represent Incognito or build that brand, or was sure that she'd be able to get us a sponsor and get up like that's yeah. I don't know. I felt like she was in it for a bit of herself at some stage, and then some of the things that she did like later on in the events, like a GLL, it just kind of it wasn't team orientated like at all, and I don't know. She definitely had, I feel like an ulterior motive, which is fine because she obviously wants to develop her own career and whatnot. But I just feel like it hindered us in a way as well. Like
Kind
I
of
think
like
we could have
using
done more.
So you're basically like saying she's using Incognito to better her career and her avenues forward through that.
Yeah, like I think obviously Incognito was Cows in the first place, but she was a big part of it as well, and I think she wanted to kind of take over it, like get involved in esports potentially that way, and maybe like try and run Incognito and try and build it up and find some sponsors, but it just never happened to be the case, and nothing ever seemed to come from it. And I just feel like like we had so many other opportunities that we could have taken, but she just
Well,
constantly like pushed people away and like kind of also like gave us a bad name with other oceanic representatives and brands and whatnot.
well, with the podcast with Cal, the two biggest names that he mentioned were Darksided and Warriors, which
Yeah, that was a lot more.
right. Well, that's intriguing. So, but the question is, if even if there's a lot more, are they going to be able to offer what you guys desired?
That's true, and a lot of the time they couldn't. And when PUBG's offering accommodation and food and flights, like what really does an org have to do other than provide, like maybe a salary for a return, what they can do for some exposure or whatnot. And that's kind of probably what we were looking for and what we found with our current organization. And at the time, like we did have a few offers. I think Mindfreak came through, and also there was Totality, which was a North American tier 2 org that were kind of like looking to be within stay within the PUBG scene. And they offered us, a pretty, like now that I look at it, like a solid salary. I think back then as well, we kind of maybe asked for a bit too much.
Well, I was about to say that was my next question. Do you think maybe Ezza and Cal, to a degree, wanted too much?
Definitely, Cal had input as well, but he was but he had reasoning behind it. Like hers is just kind of like, I felt like if she didn't get a good vibe from someone, she wasn't for it. But like Cal had reasoning behind it. Like we obviously spoke to Chiefs, who were Icon at the state, like they were merging. This was prior to that merge, and we'll talk to them, and it was it was just a contract in regards to representing them and some benefits and whatnot, but it was nothing salary related. And it didn't benefit us really. Like I don't understand how they thought that it would benefit us in any way. And I think at that stage we'd also decided that boot camps weren't really a thing. Like weren't really that good. Like it's good and all to go over there a week prior, but like I think for us, because we're not salaried, it's better for us to like have that extra week at home and work rather than like, I don't know, like be away from family.
Oh, I agree. Save the money as well.
Yeah.
Since you're not going to be able to. If you had an organization, and Australia is just not really the landscape to be able to provide it, but if you had an organization that could get you there, get you the boot camp, sure, it's not the end of the world to obviously have a week early boot camp. But then you do the boot camp regardless, right? Like, it doesn't Ezza pay for it, and then she asks for the money back.
That is that how it happens? I think we had this whole thing like at the end of Omen by HP, where we split the cut 5 ways, and like I didn't agree to that prior to the event. I didn't know what the go was actually. Like I never had the conversation actually until after the event. And I spoke to Cal when he said, "Look, we split everything 5 ways." And I don't even think he remembered saying that, but like when it actually came down to getting paid, I think Ronan brought it up or someone brought it up, and we're like, "Look, like for this event, like that's all right, but like in future events, because we're had just made this amount of money, and like
I mean, if you got to split like 100K or something 5 ways,
yeah, exactly.
That's when
like
it's a
bit of bull crap for like what their input is compared to what your input is, because you're the one actually performing.
And that's and in this case, it's not an Ezza thing. It's just the role.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And it's not an errant thing. And she thought that she was entitled probably to that split as well. Even though we had the conversation after Omen, when it came to getting paid out by Faceit, she thought she was entitled to a fifth of that as well. But we're like, hey, no, look, no, like we would have just gone with an org to do what you've done, like because it would have been a lot less stress or whatever, like all up, and like they would have probably taken a smaller cut as well. So, but yeah, she didn't get any money of the Faceit, I don't believe. Like we always make sure she's not out of pocket. Like she's never out of pocket. I think maybe for GLL she might have been, but we paid her back some in some form of way. She might have not even been out of pocket for GLL. I think she received the money that she needed to. She might have even like received a bit more money, because I think from the revenue share we got from GLL, because we didn't win any prize pool, she got a cut from that from everyone else. We split that 5 ways because.
Were you out of pocket from JLL?
Me?
Yeah.
Probably not actually. I think it probably would have been even.
Broke even. Yeah.
Yeah, like after paying money for like drinks and whatnot, or any other food for lunch or whatnot. I don't really spend that much money.
Certainly not the experience you would have wanted in hindsight, because realistically you could have gone there for free, earned a little bit of money, not spent so much, come back and maybe you've earned at least a little bit.
Yeah.
In reality, you made nothing.
Yeah, I think also I kind of like. I'm glad I made the decision I did. I think in the long run, but like I think I was kicking my teeth a little bit as well because that's probably not the right expression, but at the start of phase 2, because I performed so well at Faceit in that elimination stage, and I had a couple of other good games. Pretty much Luke 12 approached me and he's like, "Look, phase 2, we want you to play for our roster. Are you interested at all?" And I said no. I'm going to stay with my team. Even though we had those sort of issues, like at the end of Faceit, I wanted to stay with the guys. I also thought that we'd get some obviously with how because we were getting like offers prior to competing at Faceit. I thought after we had done like decently at Faceit, like 10th place, you know, a little bit of money in the
better
pocket,
offers.
we'd probably have those same offers. If not, that would be better. So I thought staying with Incognito would be good. Like we'd have good opportunities, but nothing came from it. Aaron didn't seek out anything. Eventually it was up to like I tried doing it, but I had no experience. I had no contacts. Yeah, nothing ever came from it. And then we had like the whole shit, like phase 2, and then I could have been on that roster that got second at GLL and pocketed $20,000. And
was that offered to join the roster before Extreme came back?
Yeah, so it was. Yeah. I think it's because I played so well. It was either like I could have had the position right there, right then, and then Russell was actually also still trialing for North American teams as well. I think he was trialing for Noble or whatnot, and he had the decision to choose between the two. And then yeah, I pretty much said no. Maybe I think I had a fallout with Insight as well again. And then I was still like looking for a position, and then I think at that stage, Russell had said that he was going to end up joining Athletico. He said he didn't want to be on Noble anymore or be in North America because he didn't have any good offers. So yeah. That's
pretty quickly. Of course, that was always going to be his position, really. If it was like that's just the truth of it, because it was when he left, it was sort of like, hey, if you come back, you know, there's a spot there for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's unfortunate. Like maybe in another hypothetical world, maybe he does stay with Noble. You join Athletico, you come second place, and then who knows from there. But
yeah.
You could be there all day in any part of your life talking about things like that, really. It's just a rabbit hole you probably shouldn't go down. So basically, as soon as GLL's over, you're on the flight back home, you know you're not playing together anymore.
Yeah, I think we knew. I think even before I got on the flight that I think we had said it, and like we might have said it jokingly, but we all knew that it was like this, like that was the case. I think Aaron thought that we were joking about it, and then when we came back, it was a thing. We're all parted our ways, and I think we're all pretty much done. I think Insight wanted to continue the team to stay a thing, because obviously he had worked on his attitude. He was such a good teammate at that stage compared to phase 1, and like he wanted to stay a team, but I think we're all just pretty much over it.
Did you feel like you were done with PUBG?
I definitely thought about it. But the only thing I think I kind of kept in the back of my head was like I was offered an Athletico spot prior. Maybe I'll get on that Athletico roster again if one of them gets picked up. And then before I know it, Luke 12 got picked up by Lazarus. There was a spot open. I think I had an option to either join. I think Vasili and Nick were making a team before Luke got picked up, and then obviously when the spot came available on Athletico, everyone trialed for it. Nations Cup happened just after GLL, and I wasn't really feeling it. I had to also get time off work, and I was only given like 2 weeks notice, so I couldn't compete in Nations Cup, even though it was probably guaranteed. It was guaranteed money, which kind of sucked in Korea. Like that's like it's Korea. Maybe it would have been awesome.
Look, it was a pretty good event, mate. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but look, obviously, if you can't get time off, you can't get time off.
I mean,
I'd also say if you had played in that event, I think the team probably would have done better than, having 3 IGLs.
Yeah, they did pretty piss poor. They came out really good day 1A, but
yeah,
like Luke, that was the worst event Luke's ever played.
But you also would have been on the same team with Insight. Was that something you thought about? Because that was a bit of a riff there.
Like we've been on like a team for so long. Like all 4 of us, I consider them like really, really good friends. And like if anyone says anything like poorly to like one person, like the next day they're completely fine with it, and we can talk through our situations a bit better than what we were able to back then. But even if like like I have no issues with Insight. Like I do enjoy like Insight's company, like inside outside of the game. It's just like inside the game at that stage, we just we just have like a couple of issues, like, and a lot of that's, it's not just him, it's also me. Like I also like a reason as to why there could have been issues, but yeah, it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have stopped me from wanting to compete. Like it's like a dream come true, getting to play for like your own country at an event like that. Like I was so honored to have been selected. I don't know if I was second or third most voted. I think I was second most. I think so. I don't know why, because I played like dog shit phase 2. Ronan actually played really, really well phase 2, and he just because he doesn't socialize with like the right people, he just he just gets overlooked for so long. And that's what kind of like when I feel like he was really, really starting to come out of his shell. And I'm glad now that he's finally getting the recognition that he deserves, because he's an insane. He's got the best AR in OC, and he's also got the cleanest peaks in OC. So
Be like Ronan.
be like Ronan.
Yeah. So obviously, yeah, you don't get to go to that event.
Yep.
Then, as you're at home, is this when joining Athletico became a thing?
Yeah. And the trials. Yeah, it became a thing, and they hit me up for the trials. And I said, yeah, I'm interested. Of course. The team just came second. I didn't realize how much losing like Luke 12 had much of an effect on that team. I thought I could fill that gap.
But you knew he was. You knew how good he was, though.
Oh, I knew he was the best player in the region. Like I thought that for a very, very long time. I think prior to phase 2, I think like all of phase 1 and even before that for a few CG seasons, I thought I was the best. Like I thought I was the best fragger. I think stats wise I was the best fragger, but I think a lot of that was because I played on such a strong team. Like obviously I don't think Greyhound were performing as well as what we were, so that's probably why it showcased that I did well stats wise. Like before phase 1, and even in phase 1 he top fragged. Like I missed 5 days of the event, but like my ADR was like through the roof. Like I had an insane ADR, but like ADR doesn't get you points. But I think there was a stage where I thought like frag wise, like I was obviously like one of the best, if not the best. I think my competition was only really like Tickleton and Luke 12 at that stage. And then come when Luke departs, I thought I could fill that void, because like I did so well. Like I had the best international experience, because I think Linksy was at the boat then as well. So I had the most experience like internationally, and I think that's why they went with me. Like trials wise, my communication was really, really good. But I think Nick had some pretty good performances as well. I think Vasili was just out the door straight away after the Nations Cup. I don't know why. Probably because he didn't really do much Nations Cup, but I don't think he was really given the opportunity. And then they decided to go with me, I think, because majority of the roster wanted me apart from Zoid. Zoid obviously would have wanted Nick because they're good friends, and I'm pretty sure that was made pretty clear, which I was fine with. Like it's a point to prove. And then
from my understanding of it, and also from when Extreme came on the podcast and sort of just touched on it briefly, the idea was, while you weren't at your peak, like because your peak was really good, as you were saying just a minute ago, with, as you said, the experience, that was one thing they looked at and were like, well, if he gets back to his best, he can probably cover for Luke 12, and we can pick up where we left off at GLL. So as good as Nick was at the time, which Nick was actually like a solidified fragger in the region at that time, it would have been viable to pick him up. I think they made the right choice at the time. It just didn't pan out that way.
Yeah. Now Nick is a really good fragger. I think he when he doesn't have any restraints on him, I think when he just gets to play like for himself, like he'll just pop off and he'll just frag and he'll just outshoot like a lot of people, and he'll just he doesn't die for free. So he's always up in the late game, and he's always doing well stats wise, finding frags. He knows how to find frags, and when he has no fear and like just wants to run at people and has no restraints, like obviously when he joined Athletico, he has restraints. He's playing, he's playing back. He's not playing like aggressive. He's playing like a passive sort of play style. He doesn't want to, do something wrong or get punished or, make a mistake. When he doesn't have that sort of in the back of his mind, he's insane. So
I know
But,
he'll be definitely watching this bit right now because he always likes to keep track of when he gets mentioned on the podcast.
does he?
I think he's like 5 for 6 now or something like that. So he can add that to the counter for good old Nicholas. But phase 3 was okay. Like it was okay.
It was
with the split of Incog and then you know Luke 12 leaving, phase 3 certainly was just different to phase 1 and 2.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was like we won the season, but I don't know. It didn't feel like something that we should be really happy about because we didn't play.
It was messy.
Good pub. It was messy. It was from the whole region. It was messy, especially us as well. And I never really found form at all throughout that whole. Never really felt comfortable with that roster throughout that whole phase. You know, I had some good moments. I had some not so good moments. And I think we were just kind of like. It wasn't just me. It was like the team. Like
no, for sure. It certainly wasn't, and this was always going to be the hardest thing, right? Is the pressure, probably also external pressure to everyone. It's like, okay, Luke's gone now. In comes Jouxy, but it's still 3 out of 4 of the same roster. I think.
Yeah.
Even maybe to a degree myself didn't even understand just how big of a gap that was going to be. Maybe the team didn't even realize it was going to be as big as it actually ended up being.
Right.
And so then that sort of plays on things where I remember that season pretty vividly, and I remember saying like on broadcast, it's like, okay, well, Jouxy's going to take time to sort of integrate with the team. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. And it just never felt like it clicked ever. We get to LAN and it's still like, okay, Jouxy, LAN God. Didn't really pop off. Like, just being blunt here. You guys still obviously won it. Didn't win. I think you came second, if I remember correctly, but you qualified, whatever. That was the main thing. And it was sort of like, okay, well, he's an international god as well. Like, so it was always just that next step, but it wasn't like the focus wasn't just you, but it was also, you know, Russell had a very down phase in that one. I think Flood was maybe the most consistent, if I recall.
Flood was still performing really well.
Yeah, but even maybe I think Zoid was really missing Luke, because speaking to Zoid, and I haven't had him on the podcast yet, but speaking to him just privately, you know, he has said in the past that he trusted Luke. Like if he could make a call, he knew that Luke would be able to give him his opinion, and he valued that opinion even more than Russell, even more than Flood. And obviously you were the new guy coming in. So did you feel like all of that was true really for phase 3?
I 100% agree with everything you've just said, and I think I've also been saying that like ever since I've left that roster, and I think it was really like that we obviously knew what the issue kind of was, but we never really fixed it. We never fixed it. Like no one. Obviously, so Zoid's playstyle at that time was he's really smart, but he'd fixate, you know, maybe what's going to happen later on in the game. Like this, you know, this team might be a threat. They're engaging. You know, I can get close. I can work a pick. You know, clear my angles whilst I'm doing this. You know, I'm focusing on this. You know, what are the other 3 guys doing? And the 3 of us were essentially doing nothing. Like they missed it. It was missing a secondary IGL, which Luke was. Like, you know, Luke was thinking about all those other things. Like, you know, what if this zone hard shifts this? What if this zone hard shifts west? You know, what's our biggest threat? You know, is someone overextending? Is this a fight we want to take? No, hold on. You know, this is stupid. Like, told back. I did nothing apart from literally getting information for Zoid in regards to rotates about what's in front of me, what I can see, and like information from like the kill feed and whatnot. And I also like committed to every single fight that someone wanted to take. So if Russell, who is an extremely aggressive person, wanted to take a fight, I'd be all for it and I'd be right there with him. Flood, who's an extremely passive player and does everything really smart, wouldn't follow up. Like he'd play smart and wouldn't die for it, whereas me and Russell would just die for it because we're way too aggressive. Or I wouldn't say I'm too aggressive, but I was someone who would always follow the play. And I also played pretty sloppy in regards to I let myself get picked a lot. Like I play sort of positions where I'm able to get a lot of information, but in doing so, obviously I'm open to a lot of angles in doing so as well. So yeah, that's like sort of how it went. And so it's obviously preoccupied, and then the rest of us are just like they're doing fuck all.
What's your thoughts on the
Nothing
whole
productive.
secondary IGL? Was that something that you had, or I guess something you have on this Incognito roster, or was that the only time you've ever thought, yeah, we need someone else to
Mm.
be helping out here? Because it's an interesting topic that, as much as I love Zoid and he's a great IGL and he's a great fragger, one of the best players in the region, you just wonder, is that maybe a flaw that he has, that he needs that secondary person to just provide that extra little bit?
Definitely, if he's playing a playstyle like he does when he tries to make those individual plays, which he's really good at. Like you see him like run across the map like 300 meters and get a pick on a team, and then run all the way back. And now that team's like down 1 or 2 members, and they're in a really bad position, and they've lost all their confidence. He's really good at that. But that whole time where while he's doing that, he's not gaining information and not thinking about what else could be happening. And maybe against really good teams, they might expect him doing that, and like he might get picked for it. So when he doesn't have someone like a secondary IGO, which I think Athletico needed, and I think that they kind of sort of get a sort of sense of that with Lynxy, because he has the sort of personality to tell someone when they're wrong, which is good. Like he's like a second voice. I think that's what they need. So I think Lynxy can fill that gap. I thought Keenan also would have been a really good fill for that gap when they're looking at trialing him. And I thought they're going to be a really scary team with Keenan, because I feel like he's exactly what that sort of like that void he would take from like of Luke 12, and that's what that roster needs. They don't need a fragger. They need that sort of like the voice to like say, look, Zoid, that's not the right play. This is the focus, and then like Zoid straight away, he's focusing like what he needs to, because that guy's got, I don't know, he's epileptic or some sort of autistic or some sort of shit. But he's just like,
without
300
pumping up his
IQ.
tires too much, though, is it just a case of maybe he's just too good and has to try and do it all? Like in his
I
mind,
think he thinks that.
At times it's like, fuck it, I'm just going to go kill them all. I'm just going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. Because even just from watching his playstyle, it seems like that's half the time as he's running around picking up 2-3Ks. Like, but then I guess that means then his IGL takes a back seat while he's fragging.
Yeah, but the thing is, he is a fragger, and that's how he finds his frags, is by his positioning. I don't think he's invulnerable. Like I don't think he's like, I don't think how do I word this? Like I don't think he, in regards to like an Angel, he's not someone that I'm really scared to go up against. He obviously takes time away from PUBG a lot because he's lost maybe some faith in it or whatever, or he gets burnt out or whatnot. But in regards to Angels, I never get really I'm not scared to go up against him. But in regards to positioning, he finds his frags. That's his sort of play style. So I don't know. And then other days, like when he's like absolutely grinding the game, like when he was around GLL, he's like the sharpest player in the server as well. So, but I think in his head, like you said, he thinks that he has to do everything.
What about PGC? It was a pretty quick event in the end for you. I mean, like, Jesus Christ, it was. I was expecting you guys to at least stay with me for a little bit longer. The last day was better, but it was just too little too late, wasn't it?
Yeah. Still a really touchy subject, that event. Like whenever I think about it, it's really, you can get pretty emotional, pretty upset about it. I like blocking it out, Like it was the biggest event I'd ever been to, and I knew that at that time I was not where I needed to be in regards to form. I knew in regards to where on the team that I was on that I wasn't. It wasn't the play style that I was used to. Like I'd played in those 16 months with Incog, and I was used to this play style where everyone was doing the same thing. Everyone knew like exactly what they were doing, and I've never like had that with any other roster. So yeah, it was very rough, and it was pretty heartbreaking to lose by those 2 points or 1 point. Well, we would have had to get 2 points to qualify. Like to go out so early when these guys have just done like come second at GLL, there was kind of pressure, and filling in for Luke, there was pressure on the other guys because they just got second at GLL and they had a point to prove as well. And to go out so early in the group stages, it was really heartbreaking. And Mangy was there as well, and all these people are coming up to hug me, and I just wanted to like just go like dig myself a hole and like just cry in a day. Like I was so heartbroken, and I think more so individually because I know that I played like an absolute bitch that whole tournament. I had no confidence whatsoever, and like fundamentals like in that event, like we just fucked up so hard.
It's gonna be blunt, but do you feel like the boys had confidence in you to turn things around and slot in at PGC, like before it all started, like because
Before it all started, probably.
the whole mantra was it's going to take a bit of time, and that's fine. Things take time. You come in phase 3, the online phase, so. Then the LAN, so. Do you think going into that they were like, okay, he's actually not going to show up, or do you think though they had the confidence that he's definitely going to show up, and then because quite frankly you didn't, not again that they did either, right? It was a team effort, but then that also then in your mind it's like fuck, like I still haven't paid these guys back. Like I still didn't perform to how I know I can perform, right? Because like the way you've been performing, just to touch on like PCS and stuff, you found that rhythm again. So it was there, it was always there. It just didn't happen at that time for you and with that team. But did you feel they had your back?
I think prior, like obviously to the online phase, they definitely thought that. I think for me personally, ever since like I was playing so well during Faceit, like as an individual, like confidence wise, aim wise, I was always performing well stats wise, and I had such a big impact. And it's not always obviously like how you like shoot and whatnot, but it's all like on the map presence, but it's also like how you are as like a team player and the communication. So that's something that I feel like I'm really good at. It's obviously keeping everyone on the same page and my communication and whatnot, but and then once I had reached that level, like of like so high, like I was so happy with how I was playing, and then to drop off and like constantly being trying to reach that and like never be happy with myself unless I'm at that level. My confidence drops as well as a lot. So I think they could tell how low my confidence was and how much I took it out of myself, and obviously they're going to lose confidence in myself as well with that. So, and like you said, like it wasn't just me.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, like we all kind of underperformed, but there's just so much more I know I could have done as an individual person to help us and to
I know
ensure us qualify.
Having spoken to Russell, he said on the podcast that he was on that was one of the worst tournaments he played as well, and I'm sure Flood and Zoid would have said it too. Like it was a team effort. In saying that, just before we move away from PGC, Russell did say that the last day, as you guys were battling for one of those final spots, things were just getting that little bit better. You were finding a bit of form, a bit of footing. He felt like if you had have made it through to the next stage, it would have started to turn things around. You don't agree with that?
It's just all. I feel like it was just all confidence, like fundamentals. We make some errors, and like I think even the first fucking game, I got like headshot from like a team like across the map, and then I got drive by James was on 1 HP when I was trying to bait him into the compound, and like dying like that when I just could have like rotated and like stayed alive. And you lose pit points here and there, and those sort of like 12 game like sort of like finals or qualifiers, every point matters. And yeah, if we just get through those group stages, I felt like we would just like would have been able to bring things back together. And who knows, it could have been a completely different story. I just feel like we didn't really give ourselves the opportunity to do anything because we made too many fundamental errors. I think if anyone was making an impact at all, it was only Zoid. Like it literally was only Zoid.
Yeah. So just a quick hypothetical here. Now, if you would have taken obviously GLL, the version of Athletico there with Luke 12 and put them in PGC, I would have myself put them making at least the final 16. Where would have you put Incognito? Not the current version, just the best Incognito we saw, Phase 1 2019. How do you think that team would have handled PGC?
The Faceit one?
Well, yeah, at that time, I guess Faceit would have been considered the better version.
I don't think we would have made top 16.
So probably get out of the elimination stage.
Yeah, you definitely get out of elimination stations. 100% get out of it would not have been.
Basically, you would have. Just to make it simplified, you probably would have done about as good as Vendetta.
I think we would have done better than Vendetta.
Well, but they also went out in the same.
Yeah.
They made it to the second week.
I feel like we'd be pushing for the finals, if not qualified for the finals. I don't know. Like current Incog, definitely I think we could make the finals.
That's going to be a topic to come soon. We got good times coming. I think around the corner.
Yeah, as the same sort of bracket as Vendetta. Then I think that's where we would have found ourselves.
So PGC's finished. You come home, and for you, it's actually the second international tournament in a row that just everything went wrong, and you're on the plane home, and again, it's just awful feeling in the gut, probably. Maybe even questioning, is that it? Like, it's the end of 2019 now. Like, Christmas is coming up. There's going to be a break. Is that it? Am I going to come back? Did you have those thoughts that, okay, maybe this is the end?
Definitely. I thought it was done. I thought I was done. I thought it was over. I was pretty much like, I had pretty much put all these hours into this game, so much time away from my family and whatnot for the stream, and to actually go to this event and pretty much like it'd be the main moment, and to like fall up so short, like it was heartbreaking. Like I was not as upset at obviously at GLR as what I was at PGC. It was literally heartbreaking. PGC. I was really, really upset, and then I did not know whether I wanted to continue or not. And I don't even know how I ended up getting back on the roster with Fury, with the Incog guys. I can't even remember what happened. It's all a blur. I don't even I don't know. I feel like we all knew that we were going to disband, and then I felt like we all knew that we were going to get back together as well. So
did you get any messages from the boys after PGC finished, like any sort of like bad lucks?
I think maybe Insight might have dropped maybe like a few words, maybe in a Discord channel, but I don't think I got personal message. I can't even remember.
I feel like Insight's the kind of guy that would have been sitting there watching and be like, fuck, if we had just stayed together, we could have done so much better than what Athletico did.
That's literally what he said, word for word, and he's true. We would have. Yeah. I think we would have, if we had just gotten through those issues, which I feel like.
See, for someone like him, it burns that fuel, and like the fuel's the fire, and it's like, yeah, let's get the band back together. Yeah. Obviously, you're still raw and deep emotion, and in like the you were there, and it was horrible, and then Cow and Ronan thought, at the end of shift that they were retiring. Yeah. So was it do you think it was maybe Insight who kind of got the band back together?
I definitely think he had the main input. Obviously, he wanted to stay a team in phase 3 of last year, but we were against that. And then I think maybe me and Insight, maybe I kind of instigated it. He might have approached me wanting to like rejoin the roster again. I think it was me and him originally, and then obviously Ronan and Cow, they were inseparable and came as a pair, and we wanted to get the band back together again. And I think we had to, try and find motivation for Ronan to be able to do it. I don't know if he watched the event and thought, oh shit, I should have been at this event. I think Cow was like that. I think that kind of fueled Cow. Like Cow puts in so many hours to this game at this stage, and even right now he's so competitive. And at the moment, and Insight's always been at that level. I think if anyone needs to find motivation, at times it's Ronan, but because he's just an insane player, and like he needs that motivation to perform. But yeah, we just found ourselves, I think, on the roster again. I think Insight's definitely the one that brought the team back together. But I think it began by him like bringing me in and then talking to the guys, and then I think they were all for it. I just think that everyone can agree on that they've never had the same sort of team chemistry they've ever had before as the 4 of us have. Mm. Yeah. And I think that's what separates us from the rest of the region, is the chemistry that we have. And
in any team esport, it's so vital to have that. As you're getting it all back together and you sort of readopt the Incognito brand, was Ezza ever a conversation, or was it very much like we don't need that manager role?
I think it was, we don't need that manager role, and she wasn't in conversation, but the conversation was, if we reform, we're not bringing her back in. And
from my understanding, and I may be wrong here, but I think she felt left out, like blindsided by like, oh, you're back together and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, she definitely would have, and I think she wanted to try and get back on that like roster with us and fill in that manager position, but I think we as a group like decided, like all 4 of us were on the same pages, and it just caused a little bit more harm than good. And yeah, we weren't really interested at all. It was kind of like a indefinite sort of decision. Yeah.
You get back together, you guys start off pretty well. PGS Berlin qualifiers, you end up winning that. It looks like you picked up not where you left off, but where you left off at, like, I don't know, Faceit, for instance, or phase 1. It feels like you've just skipped you know, the bad parts of 2019. Obviously, as we know, PGS Berlin didn't end up happening, so we didn't get that America's LAN.
That's right. Yeah.
But you take the qualifying and it gets you into PCS Charity Showdown. So very quickly, you got to sort of shift your attention away from LATAM and North America over to Southeast Asia. Yeah. Just for yourself personally, what were your thoughts on that going into the SCA teams?
I think I was really excited. Pretty much, you know, we're a bit bummed we didn't get compared to that Americas then to go to PGS Berlin because we could have made quite a bit of money. I think from that event because I think at that time because SDK hadn't qualified for that offline event, I thought that we were going to take away that event. I think Sonics were like maybe our only competition. Wildcard weren't definitely one a thing worth worrying about. But then like the whole obviously the information about merging with APAC and the viewership that comes with that. And, you know, we've competed against these teams before and we've beat them internationally and we beat them like in online leagues as well, like Onslaught and whatnot. We're like, this is going to be, you know, like a really good chance to make some money against these teams whilst also getting insane viewership. You know, potentially this could be really good for OCE, like in regards to, you know, brands being interested at all and maybe some, you know, potential salaries, which I guess we are kind of seeing, but not in the sort of extent that I thought we would. But yeah, I was really excited with the information. Like I was really excited, and I think we all were, and really motivated to perform well. And we came out and we absolutely destroyed those PCS qualifiers for phase 1, and then qualified for the PCS charity event. And it was a little bit of an eye opener as well.
It was an intriguing event because you finished 10th, which was the best of the 3 teams. Yourself, Athletico, Ferox. From speaking with Cow, wasn't really a good enough sort of result. But you guys would have taken a bit out of that, learnt from that sort of tournament. In retrospect, though, or at least my opinion of it, is that Charity Showdown was a bit more chaotic than actually PCS1 APAC was. Would you agree with that?
Oh, it was insane. Like those teams, like they come out and their competitive integrity, like during scrims, there's none. Like they take scrims, they don't do it seriously at all, which is, I guess, fine if you know, there's not some sort of like rule put into place where you're meant to show competitive integrity. Like, it feels like if one team wants to like put the time in and like one team doesn't, like the whole scrim block's a waste of time and whatnot. As long as you're finding your locations, I guess that's all that matters. But then they come out in the actual event and they're all playing such like really good, like really good PUBG, like insane PUBG. Like I haven't seen any of those FCA teams play like that since then. And we played, I think that day 1, we played some pretty good PUBG as well. Like we didn't get zones go for us, but you know, it's how you play when the zones don't go your way. And if you make the most out of those situations, that's when you feel like you're playing well.
How much you can capitalize in the games that aren't going your way. Yeah, 100%. Right.
Yeah, and you know, we didn't do as best as we possibly could that day 1, but we did really well, and or we did solid. But I think that whole event we just underperformed. We got really hard done by zone wise, and I've never said that about us, like about any event ever, but we got really hard done by.
Yeah.
And when we did get fortunate to like play good positions, we fucked it. We just misplayed hard, and I just don't know. I don't know if we just let the pressure get to us, or if we tried to bite off too much to chew to put ourselves in good positions. But we just would lose people for free, or we would just not capitalize on games where we're in a really good position to come out with like a high kill win or something like that. So I want to say we got hard done by zones that tournament, but we really played some bad PUBG as well, to be honest.
We'll move on to PCS1 APAC. When I recorded the podcast with Cal, it hadn't actually begun yet. I'll just let you, just to sort of refresh the minds here of what he said. So from Charity Showdown going into PCS1 APAC, Cal says, and I quote, he wants to improve rotate timings, take advantage of passive SCA teams, try not to share a loot spot. Was that successful? I can't remember. I'm assuming you didn't end up sharing a loot spot this time around, I don't think.
No, we didn't. We actually secured our loot spots down in military. We had Yaz as a like an alternate drop that I don't even know if we landed there at all. Actually, no, we did Lipovka during the event, but we secured military. We were contesting like Divine, last event for like West Millie as an alternate drop, and we also had to contest against one of the Indonesian teams in Yaz, and it just like having that loot spot to ourselves that game, it just freed up so much more for rotations, and it made so much easier, and like we were just able to gather information. It was like we had to contest Golden Cat and scrims for it, and we destroyed them like in one game, and they never showed up again, and it was just so good. And like because we're obviously like do that in OC at the moment, the military split, military loot spot, it was really comfortable for us, and we're really happy, and we're hoping that we can take that on like towards next event as well. Obviously, like the having those loot spots to ourselves.
He said the goal was to do going into PCS1. The goal was to do better than the last time, which was obviously charity showdown, but win. They said won't be disappointed if they. Would be disappointed if they. I think I fucked this up. Won't this? I must have missed a word here, and I got no idea what I've wrote now. Makes no sense at all what I wrote, but that's okay. But basically, the premise is the goal is to do better than last time.
Yeah, I remember.
But also the goal is to always win. I think fourth is okay. Top 3 is always that easier thing to say. It's like, okay, we got top 3. No one ever says we got top 4. But fourth for that event, I think was good, and it was certainly better than 10th. And you guys at times looked like you could have easily finished second. First was a runaway, but second was always there. I'd imagine that's you were happy with fourth in the end at least.
Like looking at it now, a couple of weeks afterwards, I am happy with fourth because I'm thinking about the positives. I think the first half of that event, actually, I think the day one actually still wasn't too bad of a day. The day 2 was terrible. We had like 19 points, but like that day 3, we played really good PUBG. We played insane, and I think if we take out the positives, if we can just play like that. You know, we were constantly proactive. We were never getting caught out in bad positions because we're always proactive. And we just have to try and play that play style all the time. I think we get some bad habits when we play in OC, and we really like came down on those sort of fundamentals that day, and we had an insane day. And then come day 4, I think we just let the pressure get to us, and I think Brew and Golden Cat made just as many mistakes as what we did on that day as well. Like second places, apart from obviously that last game that Brew did really well in, like second place is definitely up for grabs the whole day. Like it wasn't like the whole 5 games, like it could have gone either way. So it was a bit frustrating. I think when we did well, Golden Cat did really well, and so did Brew that first game, up near Los Leones at that warehouse in the field. And then I think like on the very last game of day 3, like Golden Cat had a terrible day, and they send it, and they breach Astra, and then they play really good PUBG after that, and they get like a 20 point, like a 10 kill win or something, which is a bit annoying. But looking at it now, I guess we're happy that we got fourth. Like we can look at like the positives, like where we can go for next event and try and come away with the win. Because if we can play like how we did that day 3, I think we can. I definitely think we can, but like obviously when you come fourth by 1 point, and you know how badly you played that day, and you think about like the what ifs, like what if I had sat there like watching that boat, because I knew that B had jumped out of the boat. What if I just sat there and just killed him in the water instead of like going west to get more control, or simple things, because every single point matters. And you think of like what ifs, what if I'd done this? What if I told the boys not to like jump military when we could have jumped to the pop and we got like an 8-zone feed and probably got in second place in the event? It's kind of like it works on your mental and whatnot, but yeah.
PUBG's always going to have those what ifs though. You can't end up just killing yourselves over that. So playing PCS1 APAC, I mean, Charity Showdown was great. It was fine. It was a different. I think PCS1 APAC would have been the more serious event of the two. Probably would have felt more serious. And comparing it to what was an awful time at PGC, was it just nice to be back with the boys and doing well, especially too at an international event?
I am really happy like where I am obviously on this roster. Like there's no other roster. Whenever I play Film for Scrims, whenever I play with anyone else, there's just no one that these guys are just so switched on. Like it's not just like how they perform, like aim wise, whatnot, but like obviously how they read the map, how they read the kill feed, how they work. We work as a team, how everyone knows what everyone else is doing, and like how we're able to communicate and engage with each other. And if something goes wrong, learn from it. I think we just need to learn, like continue to keep like doing what we're doing and learn from the situation, and we'll become only better from it. But I'm really happy to like from where we were to where we are now. Yeah, I'm still chasing that major win and some sort of like to make up for that PGC loss.
Yeah.
Always be looking for that, I think.
Obviously, PCS2 is kind of around the corner soon. Different sort of different feel to this one though, because there's only 2 slots, right? So the Oceanic qualifiers are going to feel excruciatingly tough. Now, you as a team, do you feel the pressure to qualify? Because everyone says, oh, you know, well, Fury is going to qualify. Who's going to get second? Astra, have they kind of dropped off a bit? You know, how much time are they really putting into PUBG, or how much time is Zoid putting into PUBG? Can Carnage qualify again? Etc. etc. But do you, like, from your own perspective, are you just that confident? They're like, yeah, we're going to qualify.
I am very confident. I think if we can just, focus, leave our attitudes like at bay and whatnot, and just play some good PUBG, and just think about, just playing good PUBG. Like, not, doesn't matter if you have the most kills in the lobby. Doesn't matter if you have the most damage. Doesn't matter if you I don't know, whatever. But if you're just playing good PUBG, making sure that you're getting as many points in each game as possible, I'm pretty confident that we'll come away and easily qualify in first place as well. Like obviously you've got players, teams like Astra who can really show up, and then you've got the odd teams like Ferox and Carnage. You can also play really well on the day as well as Bliss. So you don't want to get too cocky and whatnot, and but at the same time, I'm extremely confident that we will be there again in the next major.
All right, so you put yourselves as number 1, which is a good way of thinking, right? You always want to be confident, but who would you be putting as number 2? What are the teams right now that you're noticing in? I don't know how many scrims you've played recently, but just maybe from your observations that you would have as the likely candidates to finish in that second place.
The only person I'd put there at all would be Astra. I don't think I think if any other team was right now at the shop in the region, I think it would be now, like a TNG or something like that. It would be now, because I have very little faith in Ferox at the moment. I have pretty low faith in Bliss. And if any, I think Carnage is improving. But I think those other 2 teams have just kind of lost their way. And they're just playing it, for the sake of, we qualify, we make some money, which is fine. But I just don't think that they're putting in that extra effort, which they probably don't think they need to. And that's fine with how PUBG is. Like how much time they want to put into the game that's up to them. Completely understandable. But I think right now the only person that I'm considering second place competing with us is Astra, 100%.
Well, Carnage is the intriguing one. I don't know if you've seen the stat, but like no other team besides yourselves and the Athletico/Astra roster have been able to have repeat international events. Like Ferox won, Immunity won, or Hell Yeah Brother won, and then like Carnage have got one. Yeah, so like it makes it. And I had when I had B2 in the podcast in the last one, I brought that up, and it's like, well, he understands that, and he understands it's only 2 slots. Like it's really. Everything is up against the wall for this Carnage roster that picked up 2 wins at PCS, that finished 3rd in OCE, that probably for themselves want to make they want to take that jump and try and take that second spot away from Astra. Well, it's not going to be easy here. And then you got teams like Bliss that are going to want to obviously rectify the misfortunes of the PCS1 quals. Like, although I don't know what's happening with Bay. Do you know if they've officially confirmed that they're going to do the Malaysia thing?
Actually, I forgot about Bay. They're actually gonna. Last I heard, they're playing an OCE. So there's another team that's gonna be thrown into the mix that
well, it's intriguing.
Is gonna make things interesting. Hey, yeah.
Decided to do that because of the. Well, it depends. I had the same conversation with B2, and I said, look, if they're eligible to go and do the Malaysia qual thing, they probably should do that. But I would also wholeheartedly respect them if they do in fact end up playing in OCE quals and take that harder approach. But as I said, hey, if they had a qual for if they had a qual through Malaysia and then you had the 2 OCE teams qual, it would have been essentially like 3 OCE teams. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But that would have been kind of cool too.
I wish they would go in Malaysia because I feel like they would definitely qualify. I think there's up in the air whether or not they'll qualify for this event. I would like to see Flood qualify. I'd like to see Neff qualify. He'll be back home, on actual good internet and a good setup this time, which will be different. And hopefully Sophia comes out and performs a lot better, like we know he can. And I think Loki's just gonna like perform whether the team is performing or not. I don't think he's someone that can, he's not someone that comes out and like has a huge performance. I think he'll play well if the team's playing well. So I think it really depends on how Neff and Sophie show up on that event, on those qualifiers, if they do decide to play an OC.
Going into PCS2 APAC, though, you guys have made a pact on Twitter. They're referencing the tweets. What did it say again? We're going to win PCS.
Next PCS, yeah.
Next PCS,
we're coming first.
We're coming first, yeah. What was behind that?
I think after coming fourth, we were pretty upset. We're all like, fuck. Like, it wasn't just like, yeah. I think we all had made mistakes. Maybe not Ronan, but we had all made maybe calls or mistakes that we know that if we had done things differently, we wouldn't have been fourth. We would have been third or second. So we're like, fuck. But like, we didn't. We weren't angry. Like I think we sat there for a minute just before Cow did his interview, or Insight did an interview, and we just kind of like we just reflected for a little bit and thought, wow, if we can just play like how we did for like those last 2 days, we won't have any issues. We won't be in this situation again. Like we'll be an easy top 3, easy top 2. We probably should be winning this event. Like we know we can if we play like that. So I think it was more so just a promise to ourselves that every single event that we play from here on in, we need to make sure that we're playing to our 100% best ability. So we make sure we're playing as consistent as possible. Like, not getting into those bad habits. And I think that's the key to, like, if we're just making sure we're as proactive and as professional as possible, we're going to find ourselves winning that next event. So I think that's just why we did that. So that's a realistic goal. The
goal is to win, but if you don't win and you fall to second or third, top 3 still a success?
I think we're looking for the win. I think it's more so.
So you would consider second or third a failure for PCS2 APAC?
I would be happy with second or third if we play good PUBG. I think we're a top 3 team in APAC region. We should be a consistent top 3 team. The only 2 teams in APAC that I believe that are strong is Jouxy and
Peru.
Yeah, they're the only 2 teams.
I'd put you guys above Golden Cat. Like, it was only 1 point difference between yourselves and Golden Cat for that 3rd spot, really. So
they got some. Yeah,
they're good. They're not bad. But I probably right now, after having seen PCS1, would be comfortable putting you guys in 3rd going into PCS2. But the way that SEA is, it feels like the meta's always changing in that region. Who knows what PCS2 is going to throw up? Could be some curveballs. Astra, for instance, had issues with collusion teams and hot dropping.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows? Maybe teams maybe you might find yourselves on the end of that going into PCS2. That could derail your campaign.
Yeah, now that Kaz pissed off all the Indonesians, who knows what will happen. But no, I think Astra are on the way up. Like, I think that this roster is only going to get better for them, and I'm expecting them to I think they should be looking at a top 5 placing.
Yeah,
honestly,
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I think that they're a couple places behind you. Like, in a sense, I would think top 6 for them would be success. Top 8 would even maybe be a success because it's still an improvement. To be fair, though, they were around a similar mark as you guys for the majority of that. Then you pulled away and they kind of just dropped off that little bit towards the end. But as you said, they're definitely improving.
It was real weird. Like we were playing. I think we played bad the day 2, and they played pretty well. But then I felt like on day 3 when we popped off, I thought they were playing really, really well as well. And I kept looking at the leaderboard, and they were still down the bottom.
No,
It's
they went
just
down the bottom. They were just staying around the same
like the
position.
eighth, ninth,
Yeah,
10th sort of mark.
because
But I thought they'd be a lot higher. That's all.
it was so congested, dude. Like it was really fucking congested. I said it on the broadcast. I think it might have been going into the final day, so like the last 5 games or so. And Astra were only like 10 points behind third.
Really?
But they were sitting like 10th.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that would be right. Yeah, that would be right. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at it points wise, they actually had a pretty decent tournament. You look at it position wise, and it's like, okay, they could have maybe placed a little bit higher. But I agree. I think for them, you don't want to put the mozzie on them in terms of qualifying, and the same even for you guys too, right? Like we sit here and we speak now, but at the end of the day, we both know PUBG. Fucking weird things can happen. It can be really fucking weird. Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see this OCA calls with only 2 slots. That's for sure. And in a world where it's like if Astra and Fury, if one of them's missing or both of them missing, either one is just as bad. Like it's just wow.
Yeah.
Would you retire if you guys disbanded again? Because you keep speaking about playing on this roster and how it just fits, and you wouldn't want to play like the way you're making it sound is like you wouldn't want to play on any other team. Would you retire if everyone calls it quits at like the end of the year or end of next year?
Yeah. So if at the end of this next major, if half the roster decides that they don't want to compete anymore, then I'm probably not going to be competing. I don't think anymore as well. I put so much time and effort into this game, so you want to see some sort of return out of it. And in a sense, I have, but I feel like I should be getting more. Like obviously, who gets to travel like across the world to play video games? Like that's insane. And I've won my fair share of prize pools as well. I think I'm like 4th or 5th overall in OC for PUBG earnings, which is pretty cool. I feel like the amount of events I've gone to, I should definitely be 2nd to Luke 12. But
it's all in the game you play. You could have been playing Dota 2 with Anfan and made 2 million.
Oh, yeah, I should have been in that game. Should have been in that game. It's kind of sad to see where PUBG is, and you see all like with VALORANT coming out and like all these brands like getting involved with it straight away, and such high hopes for it. It's kind of sad. Like I wish that was the sort of case for PUBG, like with North America. Like Luke's just won a major event, and like he's getting no offers whatsoever at all. So it's kind of sad to see. So
you mean brand offers?
Nothing. Sorry. Yeah, brand offers. Yeah,
yeah,
nothing that's worth their time at all. So kind of sad, but
yeah,
that's what it is.
I agree. I haven't given up hope on PUBG yet. I still think that there's a way forward in the future where it can turn things around and sort of turn things around in the way that like Rainbow Six did, for instance. What about for yourself though? Like you used to run those duo tournaments. Is that something you would continue to do, or is it you're just too busy playing right now?
At the moment, like at a stage, like I think as a team we decided, look, we need to be really, really serious if we want to do well. So I'd cut down on the streaming of the scrims. I didn't have to cut down on streaming. It was just like a team agreement that I would cut down streaming on this. Because my stream was starting to do pretty well. Like I was getting around concurrent, like 60 viewers, whatnot. So I was pretty happy with where it was. But I think if I had freed up some competitive time, that I would lean towards doing that. I'd probably play some LPL with my IRLs or something like that, and then put on some events and still play the game, but obviously for a fun aspect and nowhere near much time.
So you guys don't buy into the mantra of Linksy that all the PUBG players should be streaming and streaming everything that they can?
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Not really. No, I don't think so. Maybe like a couple people from this region could, do well.
Well, I would say you'd be one of those though that.
I was doing well, but I think majority of those viewers were Thai. So which is
well,
fine,
okay.
which is awesome. Yeah, which is fine, but yeah, we're at a stage where like if it's going to be worth for any of us, we have to reach out to the APAC community, like the SEA sort of community, and I think the only people that are going to be able to do that is like competitive players that have been performing really well, so like maybe like a player like Linksy or a player like Ronan or someone, and they'd have to work hard as well still.
Are you still enjoying PUBG?
I don't know. I'm at a weird stage. I'm really competitive and I want to do well, and I'm still putting a shitload of hours into this game. But for me, PUBG used to be a game that, like, when I used to go to work, oh, I can't wait to get home and play that game. Oh, I have such a passion for this. I can't wait to get home and play LPL, or I've got comp on tonight, or I can't wait to play, like, my 5 games of comp. For me, it's definitely not like that at the moment, and I don't think it's been like that for a long time. I do enjoy playing with my team, and that might be the only time I really ever enjoy playing PUBG, to be honest, is when I play competitive with them and we're doing well. So when we do well.
And if you weren't to play PUBG competitive anymore, you wouldn't think of playing another esport title?
I really enjoy playing Valorant, and I'd like the idea of getting into like a sort of like a title like that and pursuing like a career in it, but I just don't think I'd be good enough, and I don't think I have the time to be able to get good enough in it as well. Like I'd have to invest another 2,000, 3,000 hours, and I don't have that time. I'm 24, going on 25, and like I've got other like dreams and aspirations, and I've already taken so much time away from my family as it is. So,
but are you a big esport person? Would you want to stay in the esport space now that you've sort of had a touch of it?
What's that? Sorry, you dropped out a little bit, or I dropped out a little bit?
Yeah, apparently. Hang on. We'll just pause things up here for a second. All right, we're back. We'll fix you up, little man in the corner. So yeah, Valorant maybe, but probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Like I'm enjoying watching it and seeing the whole like teams forming and getting involved, and then all these new tournaments coming out with the hype around it, and all these teams forming and like looking for representation and whatnot. I'm really enjoying watching that, like the Ignition series and stuff like that, and it'd be really, really cool to get involved with that. But like I said, I'm the sort of person that I have to like grind to get good at the game, and like I'm not like a natural like straight away. So I'd have to put in a lot of time and effort, and I don't have that. Like, yeah.
Have you ever thought about other roles in esports, casting, coaching, analyst, manager, teams, anything like that?
I would, if I was to do anything, I would love to analyze PUBG. That'd be something I would love to do. I could imagine myself up on a desk, really like have like some really good knowledge as to why certain teams do what they do, and try and give that information towards the viewers. But I just don't know if PUBG will ever be at a stage where it'll be worth me to do that. Like obviously, there's already people who are already so good at it at the moment, and I could obviously try and get involved with it now, but I don't know what the lifespan of PUBG is and whatnot as well. So
yeah, no, that's true. I think that if you're only interested in it because of PUBG, because like realistically though, you could start to try and find a way down that path of like doing analysis or casting, and then if PUBG eventually does fall over, then you can transition to say
that's true,
another title, right, like Valorant or whatever. But even then, it's any sort of career in esports is going to be a grind. It's going to be a long journey, and when you've got a young family and you've got a job, it just makes it that little bit harder, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it does. Very full on, very tiring.
Changes to PUBG have been making its way in. Sandhawk, for instance, is getting remade. What would you want to see that could maybe spark the life of PUBG back in you? Like 2021, for instance, what changes would you want to see by then? Either casual or competitive or both?
Casually, I think, I mean, it would never happen, but because obviously they're like so much of their player base already plays in it. But if the removal of TPP was a thing, and then forces people to play FPP and gets them involved, like try and force them to play like sort of competitive settings and whatnot, I don't know. I think that's a pretty stupid suggestion, because so many people play the game for the TPP aspect. I think they need to fix their they need to alter their revenue. Obviously, they're still trying to get it together, but like their revenue system when it comes to esports, like it still can be improved, I think, on immensely. And in doing so, like if they can just like do something like that to really get these orgs like interested and involved, so they're not losing so much money. And then like, you know, with brands like tier 1 brands coming in, you're obviously going to get viewers, and then if you pick up players, those players are going to be able to stream and get a fan base from those brands as well. So it kind of works like sort of in a circle. But they need to improve on that. In regards to like map change and whatnot, I definitely think they need to include new maps, or have like a map rotation or something like that to keep it interesting. But whether or not I think that Zenox is still a competitive map or not, I'll still have to find that one out for myself, I think. But other than that, in regards to suggest,
have you played the test server?
No, I haven't played it. I haven't even watched any videos of it. I've seen a couple of photos, and that's it. Looks pretty cool though.
Definitely looks cool. We'll see how it plays out, I guess, competitively as well. I just want 2021. I want that Miramar remake.
Oh yeah, definitely Miramar remake. That's huge.
Yeah, that's all I want, really.
I wish that had been remade already instead of Zenox. I would prefer that. And also, like with the inclusion of Vikendi, like it's kind of interesting because it spices things up, because you're having teams contesting for loot spots and whatnot again, and it's completely different terrain, and you're gonna have different type of team fights and whatnot. But I just don't know if that's what if the viewers like. I don't know if that's what's going to change it up. If that's going to spice it up enough to keep viewers involved and whatnot, or increase viewership or whatnot. I really don't know what they can do to improve it. Obviously, it's going to revolve around the casual player base increasing, and in doing so, hopefully get them to like transition over and introduce them to like the competitive side as well.
All right, Jouxy, shout outs and thank yous for yourself, team, family, whatever.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I probably my biggest shout out would definitely be my family and my partner. Like, she's been amazing the whole time. Through this journey, she's always been supportive. Like I think the most, I'll keep it short. Her family as well have always been very supportive. So shout out to them. To my teammates, Insight, Cow, and Ronan. They've been the best teammates I've ever had. Could ever ask for. So big shout out to those guys. They know they didn't need one, but just so they know that they are definitely worth it. And to all the fans that have always followed us as a team along our journey, and like me, like supporting me, like whether it be streaming or sending me a message whenever I compete internationally, and just those couple of kind words can like really like change my mood in a positive way. And then lastly, Fury, they've just been really supportive as well. Joe and Venom and all the boys, they get on board and like really support us whenever we're playing a major event, and we really want to perform well for them, and get their brand out there, and as they've been like supporting us through this time as well. So that'd probably wrap it up there.
No, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, mate. Very open and honest individual. Thoroughly enjoyed having you on, and hopefully maybe at some point in the future come back and have a bit of a yarn.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate what you're doing for the scene and whatnot. So thank you for that.
That's all right, mate. Well, I'll let you go, and best of luck for PCS2.
Cheers. Thanks, Zenox. Peace.